During these challenging times, we make ourselves available to answer any questions, concerns, issues that may come up. In closing, I would definitely like to close with a few well-deserved thank yous. I would like to thank all our frontline hotwire communication essential personnel, making sure that we continue to deliver our commitment to service excellence and fulfill our brand promise. And lastly, and definitely not least, we'd like to take this moment and thank all of our medical professionals, our doctors, nurses, and practitioners that are on the front lines, law enforcement as well, and their commitment to and their unselfish sacrifice in this fight against COVID-19. Thank you for your time, Dr. Marks and everyone. I look forward to a great event.
Thank you so much, Marcelo. And now it's my pleasure to introduce Leo Delgado from Converged Services. Leo.
Leo, unmute yourself, Leo. Leo, okay. I don't know if Leo's here.
Oh, Leo's here. Sorry.
Leo's here. Okay, perfect.
Yes, and I was just saying that I had the pleasure, one of the first people that I met in South Florida was Elaine Adler. I was general manager of the cable system. I got here 2 weeks after Hurricane Andrew. So, and I met Hurricane Elaine Adler as well, because she is a hurricane. She must have been about 16 at the time back in 1982, because, and I can't believe she's still there. I lived in Aventura, I lived in Waterways, and I started this company actually in the Waterways where I had a condo. So I love the growth that Aventura has had over the years and the great work that the Aventura Marketing Council has done for the city in the area. So we're happy to rejoin the Marketing Council as well. CSI, like I said, we were founded in Aventura. We happen to be in Fort Lauderdale now, but we work nationwide. We are technology advisors. Anything to do with condominiums, homeowner association, home builders, apartments, and all that. And basically what our services are to deal with companies like Outwire. We partner through the years. Carl Linder actually has worked for me 3 different times. It's been I know supporter of the Aventura Marketing Council, as I have as well. With me, I have a couple of our employees, Steve Katz, who actually just joined us from AT&T, and Amy Losek as well. So welcome, Steve and Amy. I'm looking forward to have you spend some time at the Aventura Marketing Council as well. What we do is we are a technology advisor that partners with our clients, and we're success-based. So we don't charge anything up front. Basically, if we're able to either save you money on your telecom agreement, on your technology that you have in your buildings, internet and things of that nature, then we participate in that success with you. So looking forward to talking to each of the managers and everybody here as well to tell you how we can do that. It's become critical, and everybody understands after COVID-19 that the services that a Hotwire offer are quality services, but basically very, very needed. Without internet, obviously, we wouldn't even be in this call today. And a lot of technology needs to change and improve in each of your condos and homeowner associations to make sure that your homeowners are safe and visitors are safe and all that. So again, we'll talk some more about how we can do to make that happen. The one thing you do need is a network, a quality network, fiber in your communities and all that. If you don't have that, your community is going to be less value than that. And also, thank you to the folks from Campbell, Dan Tierney and Gary Pike. We obviously partner with them a lot as well in their portfolio properties as well. So thank you.
Wonderful, thanks so much. And now we'd like to ask Gary Pyatt, who's also one of our sponsors, and he's from Campbell Property Management, to talk to us. And again, we thank our third partner as well for being another participant for another 2 of our certificates. So we love all of our sponsors very much this morning.
Thank you, Dr. Marks. I appreciate it. And not only being here today in multiple different roles. Obviously, the first one is chairman of the board for the Aventura Chamber of Commerce, who with your assistance sponsors this program today from a chamber standpoint. But today I have a different hat on. Today I wear the hat for one of the sponsors with Campbell Property Management. So really quickly, and I say that because I did see in one of the chats One of the things mentioned that we are 15 minutes at that time into the program, and it was important to get started with the program. So just really, really quick. Yes, I am Gary Pyatt. I am associated in the operations, VP of operations for Miami-Dade County and South Broward. We are founded, Campbell Property Management was founded in 1953. We are currently, and have been for quite some time, South Florida's highest rated community association management company. And as you all know, being on this call today or this Zoom meeting, that is quite a feat in itself right there. We are locally owned. We are an originally family-owned property management company by the Campbell family. So we are one of the only locally owned companies, family-owned companies in South Florida. We have fully staffed offices with over 800 full-time employees and serve over 400 community associations from Miami-Dade County to the Treasure Coast. I will post my contact information in the chat room, but keeping it short and keeping it sweet because of the program today being geared towards associations and reading the chat room, I see quite a few questions in regards to association stuff. So I will leave it at that for right now, as you will most likely be hearing quite a bit from me answering questions during the course of this. Dan Tierman is also on the program with us today. I saw Dan chime in to one of the questions already. So we will be communicating as best as possible within the chat room to answer some of your questions at all. But thank you, Dr. Marks. Thank you, Elaine. Thank you, Michael. And again, thank you to Chief Pegues and all you do for our city of Aventura. Dr. Marks, back to you.
Well, thank you so much. And before the chief begins, I'd like him, he's going to talk to us about hurricane preparedness, but I'd also like to ask the chief to give us a little bit of an update with everything going on right now across the country in terms of police officers. We know that it impacts. Thank God things are quiet here in the city of Aventura, and that's because of the amazing police force we have. But even then, we have our own police officers who, whether they're driving home in their police uniform or in these very, very challenging times. So I'd love for Chief Pegues to just give us a couple of suggestions that we could do. Certainly people are bringing meals and they're doing so many other wonderful, wonderful things for the police. But what can we say or what can we do or how can we just give a good word of encouragement to our police force and other police officers as well who truly are dealing with challenging times? So Chief, it's up to you.
Thank you, Commissioner. Good morning, Mayor. Thank you for your kind words, and I appreciate everybody's support. I will tell you, our community is amazing. From the manager to the commissioner, mayor to the marketing people, the support has been tremendous, and we're really lucky to work for such an amazing community. But I will tell you, and from being a police officer for many, many years, the most important thing and the most significant thing you can do to uplift the spirits of the men and women who work in law enforcement is just a kind word of encouragement when you see them out in the street. That goes so much farther than anything else. We've I'm going to send a picture out to everybody later today, but we've been overwhelmed with thank you cards from the community, with tokens of appreciation, so much so that our roll call area that we created an entire board with all the thank you cards from students, from residents, everything that's coming in. We're putting pictures up to encourage and increase the morale of our officers in these difficult times. But they're all here. They're happy to serve. They care about this community, and we're going to go out there and do our jobs each and every day to the best of our ability. But again, thank you for bringing that up, Commissioner, because it's really important. So when you're out and about, you see a police officer, if you just walk up to them and say, thank you for your service, we appreciate you, that's the best thing that you can do.
Great, great, thank you. And now will you please talk to us about hurricane preparedness?
I sure will. Well, good morning, everybody, and thank you for having me. So hurricane season began first, and we're already anticipating a very busy season. We've had 4 named storms so far, and hurricane season goes until November 30th. Now, before I get into what the police department and what the city is doing to prepare, for the residents and for the storm season. I just want to get into what the best recommendations are right now, and that is prepare now. As everybody can see with the COVID pandemic that we went through, supplies go quickly, and those essential items that we may need that we don't even think of that are going to be there or not be there on the stores disappear very quickly. So the stores are stocked, the shelves are stocked in all the stores. Go and get what you need. What we recommend is ideally a 3 to 5 day, preferably a 5-day supply of food and water per person per household, and the same thing for all of your pets. So prepare now. Have a hurricane preparedness kit, and make sure your insurance papers, all your documents and valuables are secured or in a place where you can get them and review your insurance policy. And if you have any questions or issues, just contact your insurance companies. Now, what we're doing here in Aventura is, and I feel that this is a unique customer service approach that we do here, and the reason we've been very successful in the past storms. Our department, and I believe Ben Aliyah is on the phone call too, he's our emergency manager. We don't just start planning right before storm season. We're planning all year long. We're constantly training, we're evaluating all our plans, our orders. We're constantly visiting all our ALFs, our stores, in our different communities, and keeping tabs to make sure who has generators, make sure their generators are being serviced properly. We have a list of at-risk residents. And then prior to the storm, when we have a storm that's approaching, we will be emailing, and we'll have teams of officers that will go out to all the residences, find out who are the special populations in there that are going to be remaining if there's an evacuation order, and we'll keep tabs on everybody. And after the storm passes, we go out to make sure that everybody has what they need. We have large stocks of supplies of food and water here. We have everything that we need to shelter in place. And the city has also, we have contract services for tree and debris removal, and many of our hotels here are actually if out-of-state contractors come in, we'll house them here. So we'll have the availability of out-of-state contractors and all kinds of resources here, so we can get back to normalcy as quick as possible if a storm does occur. Now, one of the big questions that we've been getting, and myself and Major Ben Aliyah have been in constant contact with Miami-Dade County, the Emergency Operations Center, is the biggest question we get: shelters. And dealing with this new normal with COVID, what is the county going to do? What are their plans? So for right now, the shelters are going to be, they don't announce the shelters until there's an evacuation order given by the mayor, but the shelters are going to have plans in place, and there will probably be limited capacity shelters. So normally, where a shelter can house a certain amount of people, they're going to cut that in half to have social distancing and spacing, or open more shelters. There will also be pet-friendly shelters, and there are also going to be shelters that are deemed for elderly, 65 and older, with any special conditions that they'll have. We'll get that list as soon as, if there's a storm, and push that out. But those are the precautions that they're going to have for these shelters. But I do encourage everybody, if you do have the ability, if a storm does come and we have an evacuation order, if you can get out to stay with family or have an alternate place to go, please do so. And as you know, most of Aventura is in a flood zone, or all of Aventura is in some type of flood zone. Our community is unique that we're actually in 3 different types of flood zones. From B, C, and D. A B flood zone is everything from halfway from the intercoastal, all the residents that go to the intercoastal to the Turnberry Golf Course. Any of those residents are in a B flood zone, and that is a situation for a Category 2 hurricane or above. The remainder of the city the majority of it is actually in a D flood zone. And that is a mandatory evacuation for a Category 4 hurricane with a storm surge of 4 or higher. So those are some information that we have here. I know those are some of the main questions that I get from the community. It was about the shelters, the flood zones, the mandatory evacuation, what we do. All our ALFs, we've gone over there. They have contracts. Their generators are serviced and are ready to go and are up to par. And does anybody I'm here to answer any questions for anybody. Is there anything, anybody just?
Yeah, right now, Chief, looks like there's no questions for you yet, but I'm sure that we'll have some now that you've spoken. But as of right now, there's no questions. Unless somebody from the audience wants to put up their hands so I can recognize you, or put in the chat box for the chief. I think we're good for now.
Okay.
Thank you so much, Chief. We really appreciate this information. And we're going to now open our mic and we're going to start answering questions. And Michael, you're going to read the questions, correct?
Yes. Yes.
And then we're going to ask you as board members to answer the questions, and we'll pop in also from a property management standpoint, or myself will also pop in and help. But right now we want to really hear from you and hear what you're doing in your buildings. Michael, we're turning it over to you.
Perfect. So it looks like we have one hand, a verbal question from Andrea White. That was done about 20 minutes ago. I'm not sure if Andrea still have a question, but Andrea, if you go ahead, Andrea.
Thank you for recognizing me. The reason that I wanted to listen in is certainly this is informative as a citizen. As a board member in my community, this might be a small issue, but we are a small community of about 77 properties, and we have a community pool that we have not been able to get open because fear of liability is probably fear of liability is probably our biggest concern. And I find this personally when people know that they need to act responsibly, they are going to Publix with masks and bring a hand sanitizer. This fear of liability seems to be in our way.
Let's have some people raise their hands and explain how they're doing it in their properties.
Yeah, so if you could go ahead and raise your hand on the bottom of your screen, I can recognize you.
Michael, do you want me to just
yes,
chime in really quick
please.
then?
Yes, that'll be easier, Gary. Thank you.
So sure, Andrea, first of all, good morning. I was going through the chat room and looking at some of the questions. One of the things that you had mentioned of fear of liability, that's kind of like a broad term, but that being said, with swimming pools, not only here in Aventura, but for Dade County, for Dade, Broward, and Palm Beach County, we have taken the approach in the property management world of, first of all, developing a plan within each association that matches up with the guidelines. For example, we have communities that have decided to put out chairs, some communities that have decided to not put out chairs. Those that have put out chairs, we obviously keep the social distancing, and we have put out at maximum 50% of what was originally there. We have also worked with the associations within their staffing to be able to accommodate for the guidelines of COVID cleanliness, let's put it that way. And that is things like wiping down the railings on a regular basis, either opening or closing the restrooms on the pool deck. Mostly we open them, but again, based on staffing, cleaning them, making sure we clean on a regular basis. For those associations that have put out chairs, we also work within the staffing guidelines that the association has, and by that I mean housekeeping and things along those lines, maintenance in regards to providing hand wipes or sanitizer on the pool decks, to make sure that both, if the association can accommodate it, great. If not, that the individual homeowners ultimately do still have a responsibility to help in this. And obviously when we get to masks, masks are mandatory to be worn on and off the pool deck. And if you're sunning on a lounge chair, great, you can have your mask off. If you're in the pool, you can have your masks off. So those are some of the highlights. My information is in the chat room. I'll be more than happy. You can reach out to me and I'll be more than happy to have a more in-depth conversation offline. And if I can assist you in some of the guidelines, various guidelines that associations have published, depending on the size of your pool, the number of units, and based on the staffing that you have to meet the guidelines, we have worked those communication pieces around each individual association based on those. So if I can help you, great. And I hope that answers some of your questions.
Thank you, Gary. It does, and I don't want to belabor an issue that I'm sure everyone has their questions. It's just that we are a small community without reserves for staffing, which could become very expensive. And I don't know how we are told we can't keep our bathrooms closed. And, you know, the question being how many times do the bathrooms have to be cleaned? So if you have anything about that, I'll contact you later.
Sure. You just reach out to me offline and we can get into more specifics.
Okay.
I'll be more than happy to help you out as much as I can.
Thank you.
You're very welcome.
Let me just clarify for anyone on this call, you can't close your bathrooms if you have your pools open.
That's what we thought.
Right. You can close, if you close your pool, you can close your bathrooms, but if the pool is open, the bathrooms have to be open. But thank you for your question. Let's go on, Michael, to the next question.
Okay, yeah, so Stan, I'll come back to you in a second from Sunrise Lakes. Let me go to the chat box. There'll be a lot of questions in the chat box. First one is from Alan Brown. First of all, Alan, thank you for, I'm doing great. Thank you for asking. Very nice to see you. I haven't seen you in a long time. Hope you're doing well. Alan asks, have you developed guidelines for residents who are returning from foreign travel? And are you recommending required quarantine for a period of time? And in addition to that, he's also asking about face masks. How are you policing that? Those are questions from Alan.
Okay, are there any of our board members or property managers who'd like to address this before? If not, I'll take that question. But let's see if we can have some information from some of our board members or responses.
All right. I don't see any hands going up at this time. So if that's the case, Dr. Marks, if you want to take it.
I'm happy to. First of all, the city of Aventura has made face masks mandatory inside commercial properties and residential properties. So you now have teeth into what many of you have tried to do, and that is to require your folks to wear face masks in any of the common areas. And respectfully, having served on boards for many, many years, and I'm currently the president of our Master Association board, there are some people who just don't care that you have a rule and don't want to follow the rule and won't follow the rule. And I know many, many of you all have put in these rules and then you get this pushback. So just so you know, inside your condo buildings, any common area, you must wear a mask. They don't follow the rules, you have an opportunity to define, but you also have the teeth of the city behind you. So please use this support, and it's here for really to help all of you. You know, you have, take an elevator, for example. People get in and out of the elevators all the time. You haven't seen them in the elevator. If they didn't have a face mask on and if they were coughing, you have no way to know. You may have your face mask on, but we really need everybody to help everybody else. So face masks are really required now, and that's it. No discussion about it.
All right. The next question we have is from Michael Jaworski. First of all, he says, thank you for the platform. He's president of Victoria Towers Condominium. He says, we have posted CDC and professional signs for the use of proper PPE, the masks, in the common areas. Can a board be liable for those not wearing? And how can we enforce as a board? Before you answer that, it looks like we did get a response on the chat room from Dan Tiemann. He wrote, Michael, this is addressed to Michael. I'm not an attorney, but the attorneys we have had discussing the liability for boards have made it clear that boards need to show good faith in declaring, communicating, and monitoring the required rules. There seems to be a general understanding that enforcement can be a real challenge. The properties we manage generally have a policy of politely reminding people of the rules, which typically results in compliance. I'm not sure if you want to add anything to that, anybody, but it looks like Dan kind of answered that. But Dr. Marks, if you want to either answer that or have somebody from the audience, I'll go ahead and.
Well, let's hear from our audience first, definitely.
Okay, very good. If anybody want to add any comments to that, or are we okay with Dan's response? I don't see any hands right now. So why don't we leave it at that, and we'll go on to the next question. Stan from Sunrise Lakes, I'm going to unmute you. Go ahead, Stan, ask your question, please.
It's not a question. You had asked for responses about the pools and opening the pools, and I just wanted to give what we're doing.
Absolutely.
We're in Broward County. We're a large community, 2,500 units. We have a main pool and 5 satellites. And this coming Monday will be 2 weeks that we've had our main pool open. We debated it a number of times.
Okay.
And finally decided to open it, but it's expensive. We have a security guard who takes everybody's temperature when they come in and logs when they come in so that we can do tracing if we need to. Or if
$10 to Walgreens.
If we ever do get sued, we know who was there and who wasn't and when they were there. We have 2 janitorial people there, one to wipe things down and one at the bathrooms to limit it to 1 person at a time in each of the bathrooms. And so we don't care whether a male goes into a female or female and a male. It's just 1 person at a time, and there's somebody there to monitor that and then to clean up afterwards. We took the chairs off the deck. We've limited to 50% of our capacity, which 50% is 24 in our case. But I look out of the pool, out of my window, and I don't think there's been a time when there've been more than 10 people out there. We were expecting fights and problems, and it just hasn't occurred. We're an over 55 community, and maybe that's part of it, but that's been our experience.
Thank you so much.
And I think if I may, Michael, what I have found, Stan, is in the industry itself, not only here in Aventura, but in Dade and Broward counties, your experience is pretty much typical. When we started planning for the opening of association facilities, and the first one being pools, we all anticipated with our communities due to being closed for such a long time that there would be an overwhelming response to people coming out. And we've experienced in most of our associations the same thing. One of my questions back to Stan would be, and this is a general question that everybody here will probably understand, and that is, Stan, have you decided when you opened your pool, have you decided to open it up for, let's say, the entire day? Because many of associations, based on their staffing, opened up their pools in segments, like let's say 10 to 12, and then, you know, maybe 2 to 5 or something like that, based on their staffing needs.
Yeah, we're 10 to 6, 7 days a week. And one other thing that we encountered recently that I think nobody has thought about is we removed the furniture, but we've had some handicapped people come in on wheelchairs who can get themselves into a regular chair, but can't bring a chair with them. And so we've made an accommodation. We'll pull out a chair for that person and then wipe it down afterwards. But it's something else that probably few people have thought about.
You're right. That's an interesting part. And I think what everybody needs to remember is this is the first time we've experienced this in associations, and constantly every single day is a work in progress.
Very good. So the next comment I want to hear from our fabulous Mayor Weissman, and she's going to explain the importance of wearing masks. Mayor Weissman? Enid, are you still there? Enid. All right. Enid, can you hear me?
I'm unmuted. Can you hear me?
Yeah, go ahead, Enid. Perfect.
Okay. This week, 26 cities in the county are mandating masks. They must be worn anywhere inside in public places, and understand that anything that's not owned by the government is public. So I know all of you get told, just like we do in my condo, well, this is a private residence. Yes, your apartment is your private residence, but the common areas are treated just like a Publix or a Costco or anything else. It's all private property, but because this is an emergency order, we have some control. The one thing we know is that masks work. And all you have to do is look at the country of Hong Kong, or the city of Hong Kong, I guess now, 11 million people and only 6 COVID deaths. But the Chinese have been wearing masks forever. You know, the deal would be with the pool, you leave your apartment, you wear your mask, you get to the pool, when you get to your chair, you can take your mask off. If you're going over to talk to someone else and it's closer than 6 feet, put your mask back on. You know, you'd think this would be so simple, and we know that this would stop the spread, but it seems like this is the hardest thing to ask people to comply with. You know, many of the condos marked the place for the furniture to be with like a little electrical tape that comes off and doesn't cause any damage, that shows the 6 feet, because very few of us can go to 6 feet, you know, in our heads. It's hard to know exactly. So you can mark your furniture in the pool area. In the pool itself, you're probably the safest because of the chlorine and the muriatic acid. I would tell you to be careful of congregating at steps, because sometimes you can get 10, 15 people all sitting at the steps. And then if they're not wearing a mask, you know, really, they're not in the pool for swimming. In terms of enforcement, you know, we tried to do something to back our condo managers. In the last order, it said strongly recommended. And we've changed that to mandated or required. Now, condos can always be stricter than the city, but you have, bare minimum, you have to at least follow the city's rule, but you can be stricter. As far as what you do to enforce, you know, this is something your condo boards have to meet and decide. I can tell you that in a number of buildings that I'm aware of, they are doing a warning, a first-time warning and a second-time fine. The fine by my order is up to $250 an incident and or 180 days in jail. The mayor of the county and the other cities, I mean, this is very serious times. We cannot continue the 5,000, 4,500 cases a day. South Florida lives and dies on tourism, and the rate of cancellation in the past 6 days is almost stunning to our hotels and businesses, but it makes sense. You know, you're sitting somewhere and you plan to come to Miami, and then you see this uptick, and it's hurting all of our economy. I will say in my city, I think 95% of the people are compliant, but it's always that 5%. Particularly in some of your communities have a lot of younger kids. You know that's the group that's being targeted by this virus. It doesn't seem to care anymore if you're young or you're old, and it certainly doesn't care if you're a Democrat or a Republican. And masks aren't political. They're not a religion. You don't have to believe in them. And if you don't care about yourself, wear it for someone else. You know, we're telling high school kids, wear it for your grandparents. You know, you want to see them. This isn't a political message. It's a life and safety message. So I think that if you follow the protocols established by the city, there's a number of laws that will be looked at during this session in Tallahassee in terms of liability, but they're being very, very generous in liability when all protocols are followed. You know, we can't really determine yet where a disease was actually traced to, except in a couple of rare instances. And that's really not in Florida yet.
Thank you, Mayor. Alan Brown asked, what are buildings doing with visitors regarding the use of the pool? And Gary Pyatt had answered that for those of you not following the chat box. The properties that his company manages, they're limiting the pools to unit owners only. I know personally in my development as well, no guests are allowed. They're also limiting the number of people and the amount of time you can stay at the pool. I'm not sure if any other property managers here or any other buildings have different rules if they want to chime in. If you do so, please raise your hand or go in the chat box. In the meantime, while we're waiting for that, Dan Tiemann, he had posted a nice PDF. Basically, it's for the Miami-Dade guidelines for the new normal. They're updated regularly by the mayor. It's probably a great document to keep up in real time what's going on. It's in the chat box if you have access to it. Okay, so in the meantime, I think we are out of questions. So
I
very
have
surprised.
several, Michael.
Perfect.
I have several that were sent to me in advance.
Right.
So let me just bring those up, and maybe we can have folks who, you know, would chime in. I think one of the things that has been asked of me is, it seems as if our residents are more cranky. It seems like they're more rude. It seems like when we're trying to do anything, folks seem to, you know, be more tense. And the question is, you know, why has that happened? What's going on? And I think we need, as, you know, as folks in condos, we need to remember that everybody is under stress right now. There's this enormous fear of the unknown. How long is this going to last? When is it going to end? Am I going to get sick? How can I not get sick? Am I going to have a job? Is the stock market going to be okay? None of these questions have answers. So it creates an automatic, stress on folks. And yes, they are acting in many cases. And I wonder if some of you have experienced that as well. But folks are responding, and I'm seeing a couple of heads shaking here. And I think we just have to remember that these are really challenging times for everyone. So from a board member standpoint or a property manager standpoint, while we have to be a little more, accommodating and a little more understanding, these same folks who are going through this anxiety and all these other stressors are also treating our employees in a certain way that really makes them uncomfortable. And I don't know if any of you have found this, but the question that I've gotten is, based on all of this, what do we do when we as board members set up these rules, but our employees are almost afraid to enforce them because they anticipate certain people who are just going to come right back at them in a very strong and powerful way? So I guess question number one would be, have you all experienced that? And if so, have you found a way to solve that problem? So I'm going to that's question one. I'm going to open that up to anybody who'd like to really address this.
Don't be shy.
All right then, Dr. Marks. I can see there's a lot of input from the crowd.
Michael, I'll jump in here. It's Alan.
Very good, Alan.
How are you? Dr. Marks, I am the president of Building 300 at Mystic Point. Michael knows me, Elaine knows me, some other people. I'm a quadriplegic for 33 years, so I've been stuck many times. So I understand that people are feeling a lot of paralysis right now in a different way from what I live on a normal basis. As president of my building, I've kind of put into place with Carol. We talk every week at 1 o'clock as a board. We're trying to enforce things as best as we can. With regards to the fines, which you guys brought up and solidified, I almost want to incentivize the staff to help us enforce the rules with some of that money that we bring in for the fines, because they feel that they're getting pushback by being bad to people that are the residents as well. So I find that to be a little bit of a breakdown. I say to Carol, we have cameras everywhere. We can take pictures, we can send them to people, we can find them. It's a difficult thing. Everybody's very tense right now. I'm trying to communicate as best as we can with everybody. But it is tough getting the staff to really push forward and lock everybody down the way we should be. And I think, like I said, using this fine money to incentivize the staff is not a good way to do things. And it would be great from the police department way if we do have people, if we can have them come out to talk to the people that refuse to wear masks. That would help a lot.
Alan, it's Gary. Your points are well taken. And just really quick, for our associations in Aventura to be sensitive to the residents, one of the things that we've also done, as Dr. Marks said, it is let's call it a sensitivity issue, if you will. We've also made a conscientious effort to have specific conversations with our employees. That includes from the manager down to the maintenance to the janitorial people, and make sure that they understand as well, yes, they have a job to do, but even more importantly, that we are in the customer service industry and that we have some additional conversations around sensitivity and how to communicate the message. Because as we all know, communication is the most important. So there are various ways to communicate the same message. You're not wearing your mask and it is a requirement. Well, there's umpteen different ways to do that. So we've had several conversations with our staff, as I said, manager down, in regards to being sensitive to that and the patients and making sure that we deliver the ultimate message, but that we deliver it in a way that's respectful and to the people knowing that everything's going on. I think that's important also.
I just want to make sure, you know, when I said the fine could be 250, that's up to 250. Many condos boards have set their own fines. Some have established no fines. You know, this isn't one size fits all. My personal feeling on fines is it's not there to punish people. And the city won't be issuing it to punish people. It's really a slap on the wrist, a wake-up call that we're really serious. This is enforcement time. We've been warning people for months now. If you're on Miami Beach, on the beach, on a blanket or walking, and you don't have a mask on, you will be fined, okay? The cities are becoming extremely strict. This is a very dangerous time for us. And I think that Alan, if I have the name right, Alan, you asked something about our police, and I would ask the chief to talk about our community policing initiative with your officers in the condo buildings, because I think that would give Alan the information he needs.
It appears we have someone's, Chief, are you going to speak now or are you going to speak?
Oh, I can speak. Yeah, we can take the next question, however you want.
No, go ahead, Chief.
So I would like to echo, well, what Gary said it best. The preference is for staff in order to work with the residents in order to get the and the compliance. But barring that, please, you know, a lot of people are hesitant to contact us, but contact us. If there's an issue with residents or there's questions, that's what we're here for, is to come out. We'll be more than happy to work with your staff. If there is a building that is having some issues or enforcing or getting compliance, you know, we have officers in place, officers that can come out. We could meet with your staff. We could meet on your board meetings and talk to the residents. We'll be more than happy to do that. If Alan, if you want to email me, or you can go to our city website, there's a contact me tab by my name, and just send me your information. I'll be happy to set that up for you.
Great. And Michael, we have Jack Smith who's had his hand raised. If you want to.
Yes, I apologize. I didn't see it raised on the computer. If it's physically raised, I don't see this video. I'm not monitoring that, so I apologize, Jack. So go ahead, Jack, please.
Am I unmuted?
No, you're good.
Yeah, I'm going to make a recommendation to the city. I was very happy to see that the rules come out and the difference between recommend and required. But I really believe there should be one size fits all. In other words, it's a condo. We're in 4,000 building. Excuse me. If a person in the we're in 4,000 building in Williams Island, we set a rule. And our rule is we're not fining, we're going to turn it over to our security people, and they're going to go to the police chief. And it'll be out of our hands, and it's up to the police. Now, shouldn't that be what you're really asking for? Because if you're going to say you can fine them $10, you can slap them on the wrist, you can kick them in the rear, when it's nebulous like that, I come from the retail world, and you can't waver on something as important as this. People are dying out there, and I have a problem with people walking on the street without the mask. But in my own building, I really want them, and people could tell us we're not wearing it. We don't have to walk that far. And give me all kinds of Bubba Mitzes. But I really believe the city should make a firm rule. This is the way you operate when you have a resident or a renter that decides they don't want to wear the mask. Only my opinion. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. We just in the interest of time, because we only have a couple of minutes, another question that came up is, I seem to be getting information about filling out a census. Why do I have to fill out a census? There are some folks that are very worried if they fill out the census that, you know, depending upon what country they came from, et cetera, that can be an issue. So I first want to mention that the census is not accessible for what I think it's 72 years or some enormous number of years. So I don't, you know, I want to encourage you to understand that you shouldn't be concerned about filling out the census. But as board members and property managers on this call right now, your cities, whether you're in the city of Aventura or in any other city, it is so important to get your people to fill out the census because it translates into services and money that we all need for our cities. And the website is census2020.gov, G-O-V. Please, if you're on this call right now, talk to your property managers or boards or whatever, but please get a notice out. Today would be great. Remind your folks, remind your residents that we have enough people on this call alone to really be able to make a difference in the number of folks who are responding. So it's, it's 2020census.gov. So again, remember to do that. And in the interest of time, I just have to say, we want to thank Elaine Adler for putting this together for us. We want to thank Michael Stern. We want to thank all of our sponsors. We want to thank our wonderful volunteer, Marge Rosenblatt, who also has made phone calls and encouraged you all to join. And at this point, we are going to ask, we have 63 folks left on this call, but I believe we were up to 70. So I'm going to start and ask Converged first. Would you just pick two numbers, any two numbers between 1 and 70?
Dr. Lux, before we do that, there are a few people who just raised their hand and one more question. If we can, if you want to really quickly address it,
Sure.
Only because,
Sure.
Okay. All right, if you can ask the question very quickly, because we were out of time, I want to try to get everybody involved. And I apologize, I can't really understand the name, but it's Dr., is it Bauman? I apologize, the name on the computer
Oh,
is...
Sandra Bauman.
Okay, yeah, so go ahead, please, Sandra.
I just wanted to speak a little bit more plainly about residents being verbally aggressive with staff when they are asked as politely as possible to wear a mask and they curse and yell and scream. How we just advise our staff to manage that situation.
Please, we'd love to hear that.
I'm sorry, Commissioner, can I jump in?
Sure, but I don't know what happened to Dr. Bauman.
I'm here.
Oh, can you talk to us a little bit about that?
We've had actual residents go up in somebody's face and use active curse words, which I don't want to repeat on this call, when they have been respectfully requested to put on a mask. The staff member then becomes intimidated and doesn't want to get into a confrontation. However, this type of behavior is not acceptable. So that's my comment and a question at the same time.
Does anyone want to answer the question? How do you manage those kind of folks?
Well, Commissioner, can I jump in real quick?
Sure.
If Ms. Bauman could send me her contact information, we have at all of our buildings, we have a liaison officer that's assigned that typically that'll attend meetings and boards. What I'm going to do at the end of this meeting is I'm going to send out a reminder email to our email group to all of our condo managers, board members that we have, letting them know that we're available to come out and address their staff or any of these problems that you may or may not be having. And so you have, board members change, staff members change. We want to get that email out to everybody so you know who that is and you can contact us and we can address some of these issues. So we're going to get that out today. If there's any residents who are not board members, anybody that's on the call that wants to send me their contact, I've had several people do so already, we'll add you to the list so you know who your particular officer is and you can email them directly so we can come out and accommodate everyone.
Wonderful. Thank you, Chief.
Thank you.
Dr. Mark, there's a couple more if we have time. Elaine, are we okay to keep going?
If everybody wants to stay on board for another 5 minutes, if we keep it to that.
Okay, very quickly.
Be with us in
Dan,
5 minutes.
Dan Chairman, I believe you had your hand up. I'm not sure if you still want to speak. Dan?
Hi, thanks. Yeah, I was just going to mention that, you know, we Campbell manages about 400 properties, and we've had only 5 instances so far of staff members testing positive. So when you think about it, that's a really small percentage. And, you know, I think everyone needs to just, the best thing you can do after coming out of this today is to go back to your building and ask yourself, what can we do to make sure we prevent any potential spread? Because let me tell you, when it does happen, it really is a stressful situation. You end up bringing in somebody to do deep cleaning. You start having to do contact tracing. And we've been very fortunate that so far of the 3 high-rise cases that we had, we ended up, you know, having to test about a dozen people because there was potential close contact. And so those people had to leave the property and until they got their test results back. So that can really disrupt things. And fortunately, there was not a single instance of contamination. It turns out that pretty much that all the people that had gotten the cases, no one had gotten them at work and no one spread them at work. But that's only because they were really diligent about maintaining social distancing, not sharing equipment, wearing their masks. And there were a few small breaks where there were close contact. And then when you determine there is close contact, which means people are within 6 feet without a mask for 10 minutes in active conversation, that you need to go get those people tested. And I'm just kind of reminding everybody, think about the fact that this might happen to you. So go back and ask yourself, what can we do to make sure that if it does happen, if someone does turn out to be symptomatic and then they test positive, that you've done everything you can to make sure that you don't have a problem, because it's very stressful if it turns out you did.
And in addition, Michael, really quick to Dan's follow-up with Campbell, make sure, just a word of advice to all property managers and boards, make sure that you think when you ask that question, what if, make sure you go back now and have a plan to address it. Don't wait until the situation comes up, because we know every single day now there are more and more people testing positive for various reasons. Everybody could debate that a different way. But what we have come up with within our associations is a plan, is a proactive plan. If a unit owner becomes positive, what do we take what are those steps we take as an association? If a staff member does report that they have tested positive, or if a staff member reports that a spouse or partner tests positive, what are the steps that the association takes? So take a minute and make sure you are proactive now and come up with a plan, the just in case plan, so then everybody is communicated with that plan and is on track to know what those steps are, instead of the, oh my God, what do we do now that it's come about? Be proactive. I think the chief would agree with that. It's much better to think through those steps now and not use them than have to use them and not have a plan.
Thank you, Gary.
We have 3 more, Dr. Marks. And I guess we can close it out. Okay. We have Amy and Stan. Amy, you asked a question a little while ago. Let me go back to the chat box here. Amy asks, can anyone share information on masks in Broward County and how they're handling it in smaller buildings? Does anybody really quickly want to address that? Okay, nobody
for the most part, I will really
okay,
quick.
for the
most part, and Dan posted somebody there. You can also go to the Broward County website, but for the most part, and Dan can chime in if he wants to when I'm finished. But as far as Broward County goes, you're basically following the same policy guidelines as Dade County. The mayor of Broward County as well has instituted those certain guidelines. So if you take those and adapt them, it's better to be safer than sorry if I will. Dan, I saw you unmuted, so you're very familiar with Broward County. Maybe you want to just chime in really quick.
You know, it's just what you said. It's all about the county orders, and then you can always be more restrictive if you like. And I know that all of the condos we manage, everybody has a mask requirement for common areas. It's common sense, and I think that'll probably persist beyond any potential order for at least a short period of time.
Very good.
Last question.
Yeah. Okay. Last question. Actually, Barry, looks like you had your hand up for a while. Barry, go ahead, Barry. Barry Subcow.
Oh, I think he's left his pictures there, but he may have walked away from his screen right
Okay.
now.
We have a question from Stan, Sunrise Lakes. Are people complying with every 2-year census requirement for the 55 and older communities? I don't know if anybody here can address that. I'm not sure who it's addressed to, but anybody want to take a stab at that?
Hey, this is Dan. I'll just tell you that what's happened over the past few years is that the state has dramatically, there used to be fines if you didn't get it done in time. And there were a lot more strict requirements, and it's a lot looser now. So people are not doing it as well as they should. And you are at risk of losing your rights and running into some serious legal problems if you don't maintain it, but you're not going to be fined like you were in the past. And it's fairly easy. There's great details, and we share it with all our 55 plus communities on what you're supposed to do to keep the registrations up and all the process that needs to happen. It's pretty straightforward, and you can just catch up whenever you need to, but you do open yourselves up to some serious legal issues if you don't do it, but it's not punitive as it was before. So people are kind of slacking off.
Dr. Marks, thank you. Take it home.
Okay, so here we go. For those of you who have joined us for the first time, we just want you to know that we do this quarterly. We are looking forward to the time when we can all get together and have a beautiful luncheon and speak in person, but we will, in anticipation of the COVID staying around a little longer than the time frame that we have for quarterly, our next quarterly will likely be by Zoom. We will, when we get together, have a celebration, but right now, please anticipate we'll reach out to you again in about 3 months. We'll have another one of these meetings, again, all timely topics. This is for you, and we're so happy that you all participated. And we're going to ask now for our folks, starting with Converged, if you will give us 2 numbers anywhere between 1 and 70. Elaine's going to write them down.
54 and 17.
54 and 17, okay. And then we are going to ask Leo to give us 2 numbers.
That was me.
Yeah.
54 and 17.
I'm sorry. Marcelo Hotwire.
Or Joe first.
Yeah, I can jump in. Number 1 and number 65.
Terrific. And Gary, 2 numbers.
11 and 34.
Terrific. Okay, so here's what's going to happen. We're all going to end this call. Elaine's going to go in. She's going to count backwards. So number 1 would be number 70, and she's going to go backwards. And she will be contacting you all by email or phone, and she will let you know who has won these special door prizes. Thank you to our sponsors. Thank you to our chief, our mayor, and Michael, Elaine, Marge, all the folks who participated, but most importantly, thanks to all of our property managers and all of our board members who work so hard to really keep our properties wonderful. And with that, have a beautiful day, a wonderful weekend, and we will get together again soon. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, everyone.
Good job, Dr. Marks.
Bye-bye.
Great job, everybody. Thank you, everybody. Stay safe.
If we have your email, you're going to get the video recording of this whole meeting. Okay, put it in the chat room. You've still got a minute or 2.
Thank you, Michael.
Bye, Gary. Bye, Elaine.
Bye-bye. Bye, all. Thank you.
Thanks, Mary.
Bye.